happy 1st of December. It has rolled around incredibly quickly. I can't quite believe it's actually December already and it's the last month of the year. Where has the time gone? But I am very excited to be able to share some Vlogmas videos throughout the month of December. I haven't set myself a very strict schedule for when I am going to be sharing videos. I would just share whenever I feel like I have interesting things to talk about or show you. I definitely don't want them to be very boring videos where you're just sitting and watching me do my computer work or, you know, something really boring like that. I have had a really nice slow start to my Sunday. It is a very typical Sunday morning for me to get up a little bit earlier and have some quiet knitting time outside. I'll quickly show you what I've been working on. I have classes on Wednesday and I've made so much progress already. I have been focusing quite a lot on this, to be fair. I haven't really been working on anything else, but it is the Cara wrap cardigan by Clow, and I am making this for my wedding. So I am using Knitting for Olive Merino in the colour, I think Snow, and the second strand is the Chaska Accu lace. I really struggled to find a white coloured like mohair alternative. I really don't like wearing mohair and I find that it can be quite itchy. Although saying that, the last mohair garment that I made with Knitting for Olive mohair I can wear pretty comfortably against skin, but I didn't want to take any chances with this. If I'm wearing it on my wedding day, I don't want to be uncomfortable, and because it is a wrap cardigan, I am thinking I'll probably be wearing it against skin a lot more often than a regular cardigan. So this is the only alternative that I could find. And as you can see, it is a lot more cream than the merino. I did buy them separately, so I was hoping that they would look good together, and I am super happy with the fabric. This fabric looks very different in different lighting. With this like kind of brighter sunlight, you can definitely see a lot more of the marl, of the cream and the white, which I really like. And then when I'm in duller lighting or not like direct sunlight, it looks a bit more like a cohesive color. I'm not really someone who wears like bright white very often, and I feel like this will fit a lot better into my wardrobe beyond just wearing it on my wedding day. I did really want something that I could have as a bit more of a versatile piece, but still have something special that I can knit as a bridal cardigan. Realistically, I'm not very likely to actually wear this on my wedding day. I think I'm going to be way too warm and probably too busy to even realize if I do get cold, but I did really want to knit something to kind of mark that occasion. I'll share a little bit more about this and one of the other finished objects that I haven't shown yet a little bit later on. I have plans to go over to my parents' house, and my parents and my nephews and my sister and I are having a bit of a Christmas craft afternoon. So I do need to head over there very shortly. And I think I'm going to take this as my craft. I'm not really sure what everyone else is planning on doing, but I have really been enjoying working on this and I'm in a good rhythm of it. So I think I can get a little bit more progress done on the body for this, and I will share all about the details and the size, the gauge that I'm knitting, any modifications as well, a little bit later on today. Back at home now. I just sat down to talk to you a bit more about my Cara wrap, but I am in the middle of a row, so I'm just going to finish this row and then I can show it properly. I had a really nice afternoon. I went over to my parents' house, and it's always a little bit chaotic with two toddlers, but we did some Play-Doh together, which is my favorite activity to do with toddlers, and my sister made these really nice wreaths out of some rosemary in my dad's garden, and they smell really good, so I'm looking forward to putting that up somewhere. I did manage to get a few more rows done on my wrap cardigan, and this is making progress so quickly. I think because it is a wrap cardigan and it has set-in sleeves as well, so there's not very much of this yoke section to do. And of course, because it's a wrap, there's not a lot of fabric covering all of this area, so I feel like the rows aren't super long considering it is a fairly small gauge. I am working this a tiny bit off gauge compared to what the pattern suggests. There are a few reasons for that. So I usually end up using the same needle size as recommended in Rebecca's patterns. I feel like we have very similar tension most of the time. So I did swatch on the suggested needle size, which is 3.25 millimeters, and I'm using similar yarn combination. I think it is designed for a strand of fingering eight held with a strand of mohair. So I thought I should get fairly close. My swatch grew a tiny bit with blocking, not a huge amount, and I was coming up a little bit smaller on my stitch and my row gauge. So I had, I think, 1 or 2 more stitches and 1 or 2 more rows as well. I did consider potentially going up to a 3.5 millimeter needle, but after I'd had a bit of a think about it, I just went ahead and used the 3.25 millimeter needles. One of the main reasons why I ended up just sticking with the 3.25 is because I really liked the fabric that I was getting out of this size needle. I definitely did not want this to be a super see-through garment, and I wanted it to be a little bit more on the dense side and have the fluff really fill in the gaps properly, just because of the nature of this design. It's something that I can see myself wearing against skin quite frequently with nothing else underneath, and I just didn't want it to be super see-through. The other thing is that also when I was looking at some of the pattern tester photos, some of them just looked like they had a bit more ease than what I was really going for with this. I definitely want this to have basically neutral ease or even a little bit of negative ease. And I am knitting the smaller size, which would probably give me neutral ease if I was on gauge, or maybe even a tiny bit of positive ease depending on what I was wearing underneath it. So I really just wanted to make sure that I would get the fit that I wanted. And as I didn't mind having a bit of negative ease, I thought having a slightly smaller stitch gauge would be fine in the end if it did end up a tiny bit small. So all of that is to say, I am working this a tiny bit off gauge, but in the end I won't mind if it ends up being too small, and I'm kind of hoping that it does a little bit. With the way that this is constructed, and I guess the most important parts of the fit that I was looking for, I really wanted to make sure that the armhole wasn't going to be too tight and too short. And I also wanted to check that the crossover of the wrap also wouldn't end up being too high or too low, and I really like how it looks in the pattern photos. There is also specific measurements that you are meant to be reaching at each point. So when you finish knitting the front and the back parts of the armhole, you are supposed to measure and be meeting a specific length. So that was really helpful to make sure that I was on track. I think I only ended up adding an extra 2 rows onto the front and the back pieces just to have that little bit of extra length. I probably even could have done without them, but the armholes do fit really well and they're definitely not too snug. I do find a lot of the time with wrap garments that the overlap bit can fall a little bit lower on me. This part of my torso is a little bit shorter than the rest of my proportions, so I didn't mind also if my row gauge meant that the overlap was maybe a little bit higher than it was supposed to be. So in the end, I think this will all be okay. The construction of this is so clever. So you start with knitting the back panel, and then you end up picking up the I-cord and kind of integrating it into the front panels as you're knitting them. There are also some very cleverly, strategically placed short row sections in this, which I think give it a really nice fit, and yeah, it just feels like a very classic and tailored piece that I can't wait to have finished. It does look a little bit like it is bunching up a little bit on the back here where the I-cord is, and you can also probably tell that the I-cord is cinching this up a tiny bit. Once it's on, it fits beautifully and it does really hug close to your body without being too tight or puckering up. It's a really intentional part of the design, which I really appreciate all of the thought that's gone into the construction of this. There is also some options for bust shaping. I think there's 2 options for bust shaping, which I am omitting. I did think about adding some of them in. I've never added bust shaping into anything before, and there's not really been any garments where I felt like I've needed it or wished that I'd put it in. So for this time I did just leave it out. I did, however, go for the optional waist shaping. There's just a few decreases that are spread over the sides of the body, I think, just to bring it in a little bit narrower when it gets to the smallest part of your waist, and I think that will really help the fit for me and on my body. I did already mention the yarn, but here it is again. I'm using the Knitting for Olive Merino in the colour Snowflake with this Chaska Accu lace in the closest white colour that I could find. Obviously, holding these two together, you can see this is a lot more of an ivory cream color, but I do really like the fabric that they're creating together. This fluff strand is so incredibly soft. I really love how it feels, and it is not itchy for me at all against skin, which is exactly what I was going for. I really didn't want this to be anything that I would find slightly itchy or irritating against my skin, just so I could maximize the amount of times that I would be able to wear it. I'm really glad I ended up choosing this pattern as my bridal cardigan. I was really close to doing the late summer wrap, but I think looking back at it, I see that a bit more as a casual summery piece. I feel like this is a lot more dressy and will be a bit more appropriate as a bridal cardigan. I also really love Rebecca's designs and the way that she writes patterns, and she always has a great range of sizes, which is very important for me when I'm picking a pattern, and I know that that's something that sometimes the Knitting for Olive patterns just don't quite have the same range of sizes. I think that is everything I have to share on the Cara wrap cardigan. I haven't really made any modifications apart from making those few tiny adjustments to account for my shorter row gauge. It's all going by very well at the moment. The fit is really good. I haven't tried it on since having this much of the body done, so I might do a quick try on and just see how we're going with where the wrap is crossing over. I tried it on, I think, last night, and I was just at the point where it should be crossing, and I think it was at a pretty good point, so maybe I'll just do a quick try on now just to make sure I'm completely happy with it. So that is my main work in progress at the moment, and what I'll probably be focusing most on throughout December. But at the rate I'm going, I honestly think I'll be finished within a couple of weeks, but that's okay. I've got plenty more projects lined up and ready to cast on as well. I was kind of thinking about putting up our Christmas tree and our Christmas decorations today. I would normally leave it a lot later into December, but I'm just feeling extra festive this year, and I feel like it's been a big year. A lot has happened, and why not just put up the Christmas tree on the 1st of December, seeing as it is a weekend and I have the time to do it. So I think it's not too late in the day to be putting it up now, and then I can enjoy it for the whole rest of December. I try and be quite productive Monday morning, so really get myself going for the week. I try and go to Pilates relatively early, and that always makes my day feel like I've already started off being productive. And I've gone and done a much needed food shop, and I actually went and got some more Christmas lights when I was in Aldi. I didn't end up putting the Christmas tree and decorations up last night. The whole day just seemed to run away from me, and before I knew it, it was like 6:30 and I hadn't even started making dinner or anything yet. And I remember today I did want to get more Christmas lights for the tree, so probably ended up being a good thing that I didn't put it up, so now I am prepared for when we get it up. I haven't opened my advent calendar today, so let's open it now. My mum still buys my advent calendars every year, and this year she got me this Puka tea advent calendar, which I haven't had before. I've tried some of their teas, but usually I will just have the T2 loose leaf teas, and I really like them. But their advent calendar is very expensive in my opinion. I've had it a couple of times and gotten it when it was like on sale in the start of December, but I wanted to try something different. The first one yesterday was fennel, aniseed and cardamom, and I really disliked the taste of fennel and aniseed, so I really didn't think I was gonna like that tea. But I did make it last night and drank most of it. I surprised myself. The main flavor was probably cardamom, so that's maybe why I didn't mind it too much. But it's definitely just that aroma of like aniseed and fennel that is like one of the only flavors that I really cannot stand. So We're not off to a great start, but let's see what day 2 is. I'm surprised that you can actually see what all of the flavors are when you open it up, but it's like this really long thing that I think you can probably hang up if you have, you know, a big enough area for it, but I'm just keeping it folded up in the box. I have a feeling most of these are herbal teas, which I wasn't really expecting, but that's okay. I usually will drink herbal teas in the evening rather than in the morning. But this is a relaxed tea, and the ingredients are, oh no, more fennel seed and chamomile, oat flowering tops, I have no idea what that is, licorice root, don't really like that, cardamom, I quite like, ginger, marshmallow root. So this could go either way. I feel like it might be a similar flavor to the one from yesterday, but I'll probably drink it later on. I have one more thing to open that's not really like a Christmas advent. For my birthday, my sister wrapped up 12 different books and gave them to me, so I open one every month, and I haven't opened my December book yet. It's actually been such a good gift. If you know someone who likes to read or someone who doesn't mind having a variety of books, I found that this is a really good way for me to be reading things that I would never normally pick for myself. There are certain things that I know she knew that I would really enjoy. My like go-to genre for reading is like historical fiction with like a heroine who saves the day at the end. I love those books. The one that I'm reading at the moment is a bit more of a like true crime kind of a thriller, which I would not normally pick for myself, but I'm actually really enjoying it. So see what December's book is. This month's book is called The Beekeeper's Secret, which I haven't read before, and I don't think I've heard of this. It kind of seems a bit like a mystery with a bit of romance thrown into there, so that could be an interesting read. I am almost about to finish the current book that I'm reading, so maybe I will put this one onto the pile to start next. And just whilst I am sitting here chatting, I thought I would share my latest finished object, which is the Northland sweater. Hopefully you can see at least some of it. It is quite a big sweater and obviously much bigger than the things I would normally knit for myself. But considering that, I feel like this has worked up incredibly quickly. I don't know if it is the gauge. It is a fairly chunky gauge, but I have been going back to a bit more of a monogamous knitting style. So I think that's why just naturally it feels like I'm making a lot of progress on projects very quickly. This project blocked out really nicely and it has a bit more of a drape to it. And yeah, it is super soft, this yarn. I really enjoyed using it. This is a much better gauge that is a lot better suited for this weight of yarn as well. I'm really glad they took the time to try a few different needle sizes and make sure that we agreed on a particular gauge for this fabric. If you haven't seen the previous videos where I spoke about this, I knit my boyfriend a zipper sweater man a couple of years back with this yarn, and I just knit it at too tight of a gauge. I remember it being kind of tough on my hands and the fabric was super dense, and I think I was probably knitting a size that was too small for that gauge, so the overall fit of the sweater wasn't particularly great either, and he just didn't get a lot of wear out of it. So I finally frogged that project and instead knit it into this Northland sweater. This definitely suits his style a lot better. He looks really good when he's wearing it, and I do need to get some photos of him wearing it. I did also put in a Petite knit tag into the back. He asked me to put something in there so he would know which side was the back and which side was the front. I think I put it in kind of wonky, I can't really tell, but it's okay. When he's wearing it, no one else is gonna see it anyway. The overall size of this sweater has turned out pretty much perfect. I think the one thing he did say is that this yoke section here, like the yoke depth where the underarm splits to the sleeves, is potentially a little bit too long. I feel like it looks fine when it's on him, and maybe it is just that he's not used to wearing garments that have a bit of a lower underarm. Usually the sweaters he have do fit quite tight around here, so I hope that he doesn't mind that too much when he's wearing it, and it doesn't look like there's too much fabric, so hopefully he does actually end up wearing it. But that was the one thing that I was a little bit concerned about, but I think it would just be a matter of getting used to wearing it. The shape of the neckline is really nice as well, and it's definitely not too tight. I really like that it's just a single layer collar that's not too bulky. I did end up doing just an Italian bind off on all of the 1x1 ribbing instead of a tubular bind off. I just felt like for this yarn and the look of the garment, I didn't want the ends to be too bulky, especially on the collar. I feel like with this yarn, because it is so round and plump and it does kind of puff up a little bit when it's been blocked. I was just a bit worried that doing the setup rounds of double knitting would make it just a little bit too thick around the edge of the bind off. I know that's such a minor thing, and I don't think anyone except a knitter would really notice the difference. But yeah, the length of the sleeves and the width of the sleeves, the length of the body, everything else has blocked out pretty much perfectly. Unfortunately, I finished this just in time for summer, so there's definitely no way he's going to be wearing this until, you know, winter next year comes around. But at least now he has a new cozy sweater that he can have in his wardrobe. So my plan for the rest of today, I think I'm going to make a cup of tea and then sit down and do some computer work. It's going to be a busy week. I think I have a few more projects kicking off. I think most of them will probably be like recipe development, so hopefully it doesn't take up too much of my time, and I really enjoy doing that, so I'm actually looking forward to getting into it. And I have some ideas brewing for most of these projects, so it should just be a matter of like sitting down and working out what I'm doing for the rest of the week. I'm hoping I can squeeze in a little bit of knitting time today, and I also really need to prioritize doing some more sewing, so I do kind of want to prioritize fitting that into my schedule somewhere this week, but we'll just see how we go. I managed to get a good amount of work done this morning, but I'm really hungry now, so I'm just gonna have some leftovers for lunch, and I have my project, and I am catching up with Hayley's space and watching her latest podcast. I really enjoy watching her videos, and if I have time, maybe a Vlogmas, but I just realized this is a 50-minute episode, so I might not even get through the rest of this before I have to go back and finish off some work this afternoon. I can't believe it's December and I'm wearing my Lanark sweater out. I just feel like the temperature after yesterday has dropped really cold. I just checked and it is only like 20 degrees Celsius, which I know is not that cold, but we were having some really nice warm summery spring weather, and now I'm having to go out in a woolly jumper, and I feel kind of ridiculous considering it's December. But I'm gonna make the most of wearing my knitwear whilst I can. I just have to go out to do some shopping for work to get all of my samples, and probably just continue working for the rest of the day. Okay, it's 5 o'clock now. I think I've done plenty of work for today. I didn't manage to get any sewing in, and I have a busy week coming up, so I think I'm gonna have to allocate a certain time or part of a day to getting some sewing in, otherwise I'm just gonna keep filling in hours doing other things. So I'm gonna have to take a look at my schedule and hopefully be able to fit some sewing in, but I do just want to sit down and do some knitting now. I think I'm gonna go and have a shower and sit down and get a bit of knitting in before I make dinner. I think I'm going to wrap up this episode of Vlogmas here. Today has not been a very exciting day to share. I mean, I've done a lot, but none of it I can unfortunately share with you, and it's probably not very exciting to watch me work, but that is just the reality of having a job that is not just doing knitting and YouTube all day, unfortunately. I do really want to sit down and finish watching Hayley's Space latest podcast episode and maybe start watching some Vlogmases. I've already saved a few to my watch later playlist. I think I'm going to be watching Nitty Natty's Vlogmas this year. I was already watching some of her previous years. I think I was a good week into the 2022 Vlogmas episodes, and it's gotten me very excited to see this year's Vlogmas. I will probably also be watching any episodes that Laura Penrose puts out because I love watching her vlogs. Probably also Hayley's Vlogmas videos. I think she's doing weekly episodes. I think last year I was also watching Knit California and I really enjoyed watching her Vlogmas. So if she's doing it again this year, maybe I'll add that in, but I feel like that's a lot of content, and I appreciate you watching my Vlogmas because I know that this time of year there are so many knitting videos and just so much content being put out there. I know that this one is getting a little bit longer, so perhaps I will try and keep each episode a little bit shorter than my regular videos, just so I don't feel like I'm overwhelming myself or anyone else by putting out longer videos, even if that means maybe posting a shorter video every day. I feel like yesterday I had a lot more interesting things to share, but definitely during the week I'm probably just going to share little clips of anything interesting that happens. So yes, thank you so much for actually clicking on this video and for watching until the end. I hope you have enjoyed watching my first ever Vlogmas. If there's anything that you want to see more of or less of, I would love to know. So I think it's time that I cozy up for the evening. The weather has turned so quickly. I don't even know what is happening. It was raining yesterday evening and then we had a few showers today, and then yeah, I had to put my lilac sweater on when I went out this afternoon. It's been quite windy and I think that has made it feel a little bit cooler because the temperatures aren't really dropping that low, but we've had some really nice summery weather in the past couple of weeks, and I just feel like all of a sudden it's gotten really cold and doesn't feel quite as Christmassy anymore. But that does mean it is good knitting weather, so I think I'm just going to cozy up for the evening and catch up on some podcasts and vlogmases and see you in the next episode. Bye!